Ladies and gentlemen, Gold Coast Waves Entertainment is very proud to present our interview with award-winning actor, playwright, screenwriter, singer-songwriter, author, poet, and lifestyle model, Mr. Rollin Jewett. How are you, Rollin? And thank you for coming on to our show.
I'm doing great. How you doing, Tim?
Doing great, absolutely great. What inspired you to be an actor, Rollin?
Well, from an early age, I was always interested in people's voices and the way they sound, the way they talked, and I could mimic people and imitate famous people. Like, I could do a Jimmy Stewart or a Humphrey Bogart. Mm-hmm. And so that was always sort of a talent that I had. And then as I got older, I got very interested in watching films and watching movies. So, coming from a broken home, I didn't have a whole lot of guidance. So I was going to the movies a lot and watching these actors up on the screen. And I really, I learned to be who I was from watching these actors on the screen. I became an actor primarily to sort of find myself.
Right. So would you like to tell us about the film or performance that most inspired your career?
Well, yeah. A great many movies that I had seen when I was young inspired me. There was one particular movie. It was The Sting with Robert Redford and Paul Newman. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of a teenager at the time, and when that movie came out, and I was trying to sort of get out of the home and get out of my own head. I came from a broken home, so it was very difficult for me to sort of transition into adulthood. I was in a kind of an awkward age, and I saw this movie, and I was very fascinated by the actors in it, and I wound up watching the movie about 5 or 6 different times.
Right.
And I thought, my God, there's a whole world out there that I know nothing about.
Yep.
And so that inspired me.
That's wonderful. And how do you prepare yourself for a role?
Well, there's a lot of things that I do. Mostly I try to find the character's voice to make it my own. Mm-hmm. After I read a script, get very deeply involved in what the author's intention for the character is, his motivations, and so forth. But the main thing, I think, is to find the character's voice, which is how he speaks, how he processes things, and what his motivations are. So there's a lot of different factors involved, but the main thing is, finding that voice inside yourself that will interpret that particular character.
Absolutely.
And there's lots of different ways to go about it. I mean, I've always felt that I'm more of a character actor than a leading man. Mm-hmm. And, doing the different voices and makeup and that sort of thing has always appealed to me.
Excellent. Do you have preference for theater or film?
Well, I would say that theater was my first love. I mean, I became an actor basically on stage in high school. I would create roles in high school. And so there's nothing like feeling the energy from an audience, the way that they interact with you and the energy that they feed you. Mm-hmm. Is so different than a film set. On a film set, things are very sort of stagnant in a way. You get to do the takes many different times till you get it right. Mm-hmm. On stage, you only have one shot at getting it right. Mm-hmm. And every night is different because the audience is different, the energy is different, and you change from day to day. Mm-hmm. So your interpretation is going to be pretty much different for every performance, but that's the beauty of being on stage, is that you can play with it a lot more. Once you commit something to film, that's the end of it. You have no more control over it, but when you're on stage, you can improve from night to night and do things different and try things different. So I think because of that, probably stage would be my preference.
Okay, very interesting. Can you tell us about standing in for John Travolta in Train Chains of Gold?
Well, that's an interesting story. When I was first getting into film, I would do a lot of extra work, and I would do anything pretty much to get on a film set, just to learn my craft, and learn what was going on there, the whole filmmaking process.
Yeah.
And being a stand-in was something that I didn't exactly expect to ever become. But they were filming this movie, Chains of Gold, and John Travolta was the star of it. And they needed somebody who was about the same height, the same sort of color hair, same sort of features, same sort of build. He's about an inch taller than me, but I was about the closest thing that they could come up with.
Wow.
So I went to the set and got to meet Mr. Travolta. And this film, I don't know if you've ever seen it or not, but it's a pretty gritty film. It's about, he plays a social worker who goes down to downtown Miami, where there's a lot of crack houses and people selling drugs and so forth. And he meets this young man who is played by Joey Lawrence, and he tries to help this kid. So we were filming in Miami for weeks and weeks in these really bad places. But the great thing about it was obviously being able to watch these actors every day go on the set and watch the director and just the whole filmmaking process from the bottom up.
Right.
Was very, very interesting and compelling for me.
No, it must have been.
And then I went on to be a stand-in for Robert De Niro on Cape Fear, which was another interesting movie that I got to be on. Got to meet Mr. De Niro, Martin Scorsese, and Jessica Lange.
Wow.
And, watch him direct. So that was really cool.
Indeed, very inspiring and impressive. What made you want to become a screenwriter, Rollin?
Well, as an actor, you're going to different auditions, and you're not getting everything that you go out for. There's a lot of downtime between filming, typically. So I needed something to kind of fill my time between gigs, and had always been interested in writing. I'd written a few plays when I was younger, and I just felt that screenwriting was a natural progression, and also it would be a way, hopefully, for me to write myself a lead role and perform it. That was kind of the dream. So I started to write a script for myself called Laws of Deception, and it took me several years to write it, and I did finally finish it. And of course, couldn't get anybody interested in me as the lead actor in it because I didn't have a name. So I eventually sold the script, and they got C. Thomas Howell to play the lead role, and he was very, very good in it. And I got to play a little smaller role in the movie. But obviously, when you're selling a film, you got to have name actors, and that's pretty much how they make sure that they can sell the film and make the money to make the film. So that didn't happen for me.
Oh my goodness.
Then when I wrote American Vampire, I wrote that one for myself also, and wound up selling that, and they changed the lead character into a teenager. And I had to rewrite it for that. So, it was Carmen Electra's first film. Adam West was in it. And it was a very interesting filmmaking experience. So, you do what you can.
Yep, I'm sure. How was the movie making experience on making your films?
Well, when you have producers and directors getting involved in something that you've written, there's a lot of chefs stirring the pot.
Yeah.
And things change. So there's good and bad things about it. The good things are is that you're getting your words on screen. You're getting some notoriety as a screenwriter, as somebody that can complete a script and have marketable material to sell,
Mm-hmm.
and that people are interested in what you're doing. The bad part, of course, is when your vision doesn't wind up on the screen.
Yep.
And that happens, I know, in a lot of cases. So when so many people get involved, your original vision becomes somewhat convoluted.
Yep.
And that's what happens, mostly. So that's kind of the downside of it.
Right.
There's so much positive,
Yep.
just to have actors speak your lines is just an amazing thing, especially known actors.
Yep.
And to have people like your movies is great and very gratifying.
That's wonderful. What was it like living in Los Angeles, and why did you move there?
Well, I had been living in South Florida, which is where I grew up. I grew up in Fort Lauderdale and Miami, and I was growing a little tired of the scene down there. I had done some films and some TV shows and a lot of commercials, and was doing some modeling as well.
Right.
I was kind of a big fish in a little pond in a way,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I needed a challenge. I needed a change. So this was in the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So I had some friends out in Los Angeles that were urging me to come out.
Yeah.
Because they knew that I was writing screenplays and stuff, and
Yep.
I felt like I couldn't really progress anymore where I was. I had gotten some bit roles, like I said, in some films like The Bodyguard, with Whitney Houston and Kevin Costner, and I was in Miami Vice and Unsolved Mysteries, but it didn't seem like I could progress beyond the bit roles into leading characters and leading roles. So
Right.
the place to do that, of course, is Los Angeles.
Yep.
And the fact that I had friends out there that were there already, involved in the filmmaking industry out there was a big plus for me. So I decided to just make the move out there, and I got out there. And, in South Florida, I had about 10 agents that were getting me work all the time.
Right.
In Los Angeles, it's very difficult,
Oh, yeah.
to even get an agent.
Yeah.
I was 30 years old at the time, which is a little bit late to get a start in Los Angeles. I mean, it seems like you have to get out there at 18, 19 years old nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of decided to focus more on screenwriting at that point.
Right.
And that turned out to be a good move. And I loved living in Los Angeles in the 90s. It was a great time.
Right.
It was the grunge era.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot happening out there. It was just a lot of fun.
How did you become a playwright, and what's that been like for you, Rollin?
Well, Playwright, again, is sort of a progression from being an actor and a screenwriter. I had written some plays in high school that, I was just sort of inspired by reading Shakespeare and Arthur Miller and Tennessee Williams and appearing in some of those plays on stage.
Yep.
And so I just got a hold of every play that I could read.
Yep.
And really just enjoyed creating characters. So, like I said, it was kind of a natural progression to get into writing characters and coming up with plots and dialogue for these different characters. So I started to write some short plays and send them out. This was probably about 3 or 4 years ago. I would write these 10-minute plays, and they started to get produced. I thought, well, this is really great, and then I got published. A couple of plays got published. Sent more out and wrote a couple more, and won a couple of awards, and even got as far as off-Broadway on a couple of them.
Yes.
I I just really enjoy doing that again. You know, I'm not really doing much acting anymore, so
Correct.
this is kind of my way of acting, where I can, you know, create these characters and these plots, and don't have to be on stage to do it.
Well, your career is very impressive. It's all encompassing, actually. Can you tell us about your musical career?
The music is something that I've always done, even since high school. I got my first guitar when I was about 14 years old.
Right.
I wasn't very good at playing it, and but I always had tunes going on in my head. I've always been an avid music lover.
Yep.
You know, I mean, I listened to the Beatles growing up and was just amazed at the diversity of their music and their harmonies and voices and melodies. And it was just something that I eventually wanted to delve into. When I got into college, I had a roommate, and he had a guitar, and he taught me some chords, and he had a chord book, so I would look at the chord book and figure out new chords. And I would just do different chord progressions, and melodies would come to me. And, of course, being a writer, I would write down the lyrics and just create these songs. But I really didn't start recording any of these songs until probably about 5 or 6 years ago. I just started to say, okay, I'm going to finally do it. And, you know, after a backlog of about 100 songs that I'd already written, I thought, well, I need to start really recording some of these. So I did start to record them, and enjoyed that process, sent those out and got them on some different platforms. You know, they're on Amazon and Deezer and iHeartRadio and some of those different platforms.
I'll have to look out for some of those.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're out there. They're definitely out there.
Yep, for sure.
And, you know, I started to submit them to different awards, song contests and that sort of thing, and won a couple of awards. So I'm just going strong with that right now as well.
That's wonderful. Can you tell us about when you were once on Jeopardy, actually?
Sure. This was back in 2003. My brothers and I and my family watched Jeopardy when we were in grade school and high school. And it was always sort of a dream, you know, for one of us to get on it. My brothers are very smart as well, and you know, it was just one of those dreams that I'd always had. And I was living in Los Angeles at the time, so Culver City is where they do the interviews, and they do a little quiz for about 50 questions, and you have to get about 48 of those questions right. So I went in there the first time. I didn't make the cut. The second time when I went in, I actually made the cut, and they put me on the show about 2 weeks later. I got to meet Alec Trebek, and it was just a great experience and kind of a dream come true in a way for me and my family to have somebody on Jeopardy.
Well, I can imagine. Can you tell us what's up next for you in your career? Any highlights coming up? Anything to look forward to? I know it's difficult with the COVID thing and everything else like that, but anything you'd like to tell us about any projects that you're working on currently or coming up?
Sure. I'm working on a musical right now. It's a play that's loosely based on a script that I wrote years ago, a vampire script, and I just thought it would be fun to do something kind of spooky and silly and fun with music. So I'm not sure I'll be writing the music for this or co-writing the music, but I'm writing the play right now. And I plan to get it out there and have somebody either help me with the music, or maybe I'll just do it myself. So that's one thing. And then got a number of plays that I'm working on, all in different phases of completion. And I'm actually going to be playing, it looks like I might be acting again. I might be playing Alfred in a Batman fan movie that a friend of mine is putting together. So, I went from playing the leading roles when I was younger, and now I'm moving into the later phases where you're playing older characters. So this will be interesting.
It certainly will be.
And that's about it right now.
That's wonderful. I'd like to thank you very, very much, Rollin, for coming onto our show. And on behalf of Oya Wilson and myself, we'd just like to thank you very, very much for your time and coming on to talk to our listeners.
Well, thank you, Tim. I appreciate you and Oya very, very much. Your support has been fantastic over the last few years, and wish you great success with Gold Coast Entertainment and your interviews.
They made me a criminal, but I ain't going down. They caged me like an animal in this godforsaken town. They hang me up by rope and nail and left me there to die. With one foot in the underworld, I heard the devil cry. He shouted, "Ride tall, hang if you fall. This is your final stand. Ride tall and shoot a hole in the wall and take this devil's hand. Together we will rule this land." They rolled in like a thundercloud. They stormed in from the west. My guns they blazed 1,000 times and laid that scum to rest. When everything was said and done, the devil made his pitch. I said, "I may not be an angel, Lord, but I ain't no devil's bitch. No, I'm gonna ride tall, balls to the wall, and make my final stand. Ride tall and let the dominoes fall. I'll take no devil's hand. Alone I will rule this land." Yeah, 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 yeah. Woo! The devil came a-riding through. I told him where to go. He said, "I'll make a final bet with you. The winner takes it all." His draw was quick, his aim was true. His bullet pierced my heart. But when he came to claim his rightful due, I blew those horns apart. Yeah, I shouted, "Ride tall, winner takes all. That was your final stand. Ride tall, and now it's your turn to fall. The dead know who I am. They made me a criminal.